Fantastic news. Thanks, Mike.
Entity without you are clear to launch Atlantis. I copy that, sir. Thank you. And for our entire test team, we have 1 minute and 15 seconds of hold time remaining here at T-minus 9 minutes before we will pick up the clock. And we do have a clear to pick up the clock at 9.
Yo, Derek Spit here, and today's all about B-roll. What is it? For those of you who don't know, you've got your A-roll, which in this case is the footage of me talking to you right now, and then you've got your B-roll, which is the footage you cut away to like this. You can still hear my voice, but you're seeing something else on the screen. Usually the B-roll is related to whatever it is being discussed in the interview or the A-roll or the vlog. Sometimes it's just boring to watch a talking head, so we use B-roll to spice things up. Example, a month ago I acted in a music video. An old film school buddy of mine directed it. Many of the crew were also fellow film school friends that I knew back in the day. There was a Chevy Monte Carlo on set from a local car club. Actually, there were 2 cars from local car clubs on set. It was a night shoot, and usually night shoots kind of run really long. They were shooting the whole video on a Sony FS7. The rappers were there in the video. I got to meet them briefly. I didn't really get that much time to talk and get to know them, but they seem chill. They seem like the type of guys you can go out and get a beer with. That's the version without B-roll. Now let's add some B-roll. A month ago I acted in a music video. An old film school buddy of mine directed it. Many of the crew were also fellow film school friends that I knew back in the day. There was a Chevy Monte Carlo on set from a local car club. Actually, there were 2 cars from local car clubs on set. It was a night shoot, and usually night shoots kind of run really long. They were shooting the whole video on a Sony FS7. The rappers were there in the video. I got to meet them briefly. I didn't really get that much time to talk and get to know them, but they seem chill. They seem like the type of guys you can go out and get a beer with. You kind of see how I'm using B-roll to make this vlog more visually interesting. We can use B-roll to cover edits and interviews or hide moments that might not be working the way we intended. When you're acting in a short film or feature film or even a music video, sometimes there could be a lot of downtime, and the best thing you can do with that extra downtime is to take it and use it to memorize your upcoming scenes or your upcoming scripts. You gotta be ready, because once the cameras start rolling, you're not gonna have a whole lot of time to make mistakes. Now there was a jump cut there. I don't mind them, but they're not always appropriate. You can use B-roll to cover up the edit. When you're acting in a short film or feature film or even a music video, sometimes there could be a lot of downtime. Take it and use it to memorize your upcoming scenes or your upcoming scripts. You gotta be ready, because once the cameras start rolling, you're not gonna have a whole lot of time to make mistakes. If you've been around my channel for a while, you know what kinds of things I use B-roll for. I routinely record behind the scenes of productions that I'm doing or films I'm involved with. If I have time, I'll go get footage of student film productions. I end up with a lot of extra footage of people doing cool stuff. My video on the truth about filmmaking is composed entirely of B-roll from shows I've worked on in student film productions. Sometimes I use B-roll of myself out and about for my tip videos, just to visually mix things up. If I'm talking about cameras or lenses, I'll usually get B-roll of those things to show you what I'm talking about. Shooting B-roll. When you're shooting B-roll, try and mix it up. Don't shoot everything from the same angle in the same way. Get a wide shot to establish where you are. Wide shots are great for adding context. Get some close-ups, get some pans, some tilts. Focus on getting a variety. You'll have more options to play around with things in the editing room. Always shoot way more B-roll than you think you're gonna need. It's better to have more than you need than not enough. You will learn very quickly that it's easy to run out. I try and hold any given shot for about 8 or 10 seconds to make sure I get enough of that shot for the edit.
Slow motion.
I try and shoot as many things in slow-mo as I possibly can, because if you didn't shoot something in slow-mo but then you slow things down in post, it looks really weird. See what I mean? It just looks weird. You can always speed things up in post later on, but you can't slow things down if you didn't shoot it that way. Something to remember. And also, shooting in slow-mo helps to really smooth out your handheld shots. If I could live my whole life in slow motion, I would. sponsor. This video is sponsored by Audio Blocks. They do have a creator to creator initiative going on. I do have a subscription with them. If you guys dug the intro or the living in slow motion segments that I did in here, I did all of that with Audio Blocks. Actually, all the music I used in this video is from Audio Blocks. If you dug the little musical thing that I did, you can click the link in the description section. You can get a 7-day free trial with Audio Blocks. You can get unlimited downloads for like 100,000 audio tracks, music, loops, sound effects. If you do wind up making something dope sauce with their musicals or their sound effectsicals, you can share it around using the hashtag creator to creator. Camera position. Now you gotta think about camera positioning. Are we above the actor or the subject? Are we at eye level? Are we below the actor or subject looking up at them? Like each of these positions is gonna give the footage a different look and feel. Keep composition rules in the back of your little brain box too, very important. The rule of thirds, look space, headroom. I did a whole video on composition, links in the description. Lenses and moves. There is no like right lens to use per se. Use whatever you like, use whatever works for you. I use the Canon 50mm lens quite often. It's one of my go-to lenses, and when I'm on this lens, I like to do the knee rock. I drop one of my knees nice and slow, and I lean into a shot. You get a little movement, and you get smoother shots. It definitely helps with the camera shake when shooting handheld. Now you can do the same move and take it a step further and build reveals into the shot. I like to get behind something, then I creep around that object, revealing the subject. It's an easy way to add depth to your shots, and it just looks dope. The idea is to add as many layers of foreground and background action as you can. It's kind of like stacking your image. You can get a lot of really interesting parallax out of it. Now the lens I use the most is my Canon 10 to 18mm zoom. It pretty much lives on my camera. I like the super wide field of view I get with them, and also I can get really close to my subject with this lens, and it makes the audience feel like they're really close to them. Like you can almost reach out and touch them. I do the same kind of rocking move with this lens, but I also tend to shoot below eye level, angling up at my subjects because it makes them look epic AF. Going low may not be for every shot. It's gotta fit stylistically with the type of content that you're creating. Also, when you're shooting ladies low, they may not be cool with the, just be aware of that. Part of the reason why I love this lens so much is because I can do the vertigo effect with it. It's when you zoom all the way in, and then as you move in forward, you zoom out, or vice versa. I do that like all the time. I'll be honest, I use this move like way more than I probably should, and I don't even use like half of them, but I don't care, it's fun. I use a 70 to 300mm Sigma macro lens for all my macro shots. I can get right up on the features of cameras, lenses, products, toys, etc. Comes in handy. If you're doing doc style shooting, you might want to use zoom lenses to get your B-roll. Depending on your shooting situation, you're probably not going to have a whole lot of time to do lens swaps. Tactics. If you've got a monopod, you can also just lean your camera forward and get a stable camera move without a slide or a jib. You can do the same thing with a tripod if you collapse the legs together. I play around with my B-roll whenever I get the chance. Sometimes I just move in closer to the subject and twist the camera. I like to find shots with layers of depth and then rack all the way down the Z-axis. It's fun to take shots where you're like racking focus rapidly and then you speed the shot up in post. You get really interesting effect with that. Now, if you're gonna shoot something on your phone, do not shoot it vertically, or you're gonna end up with these black bars on the sides of your footage. Not a good look. If you keep your phone horizontal, you're not gonna get the bars. You can slide your hands on any relatively smooth surface to add some movement to your cell shots. This also works with other cameras as well. If you have any rolling chairs around, you can also use rolling chairs, but you really gotta have like a smooth floor surface for this to work. Carpet's definitely not gonna work. Something I've been using a lot lately is the Gerano's 3-axis gimbal stabilizer. I've had it for about 2 months. I dig it so far. When you see shots like this, I'm using the gimbal. I like to record about like 3 or 4 minutes of a shot and then speed it up in post. Unfortunately, with this gimbal, you can't mount a mic on top of the camera when it's on the gimbal because it surpasses the max weight capacity for most DSLRs and mirrorless cameras you'd put on there. That's why you never see me talking in any of the gimbal shots. It's definitely not a problem if you're using dual system sound, you're recording all your sound on a sound recorder or something like that, but when I'm vlogging, I'm not using a sound recorder, so there's that. I also use Joby GorillaPod legs. If I'm shooting alone, this little guy comes in handy because I can literally mount it anywhere. Getting abstract. Don't be afraid to experiment and have fun. Try lenses you haven't tried, angles you haven't tried. If it works, great. If it doesn't, so what? You can't use 100% of your B-roll anyways. Sometimes I'll break out a tilt lens like a lens baby and see what I can get with it. Other times I might place subjects literally right into one of the corners of the frame and tilt the camera. Sometimes I get something usable, sometimes I don't. Again, play around, have fun. There is no wrong way to do this. Like, you never know what you're gonna end up using. Mistakes. Now, if you're shooting under controlled shooting conditions for, say, product reviews and you're getting B-roll of camera features or toys or whatever, you're not really gonna have much of a problem getting what you want because, you know, you can control the lighting, you can control the staging. But if you're out in the field shooting where you don't have a lot of control, it's kind of like fishing. Sometimes you catch a nice fish and sometimes you don't. You might not get as much time to check your exposure as you'd like. You might have to shoot under poor lighting conditions. You might not get the angle you want. Get what you can. Don't worry about it. It's all part of the process. Just keep moving. I will leave links to all the lenses and gear that I mentioned in the description section. I also do one-on-one video chat sessions. If that's something you were interested in, you can schedule a session, bring your YouTube or filmmaking questions. I will leave a link in the description section where you can get more info on that. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. D-Brit out!
They would make a total of 6 stops on this traverse, collecting samples from large rocks,